Today is with Montana Rail Link, and some people may not know each other, so maybe we'll just I know you, but we'll see who.
I'm Martha Smith. I'm the district representative for Montana State Disaster and Emergency Services.
And my name is Pete Lawrenson, and I'm the Chief of Security and Safety for Montana Rail Link.
Soon to be retired.
Very soon.
Tom Bauer, Sheriff-elect here in Mineral County.
Paul Manson, LAPC, Alberton.
Okay. So, Linda didn't come with you today, huh? It's just,
I haven't even seen her this morning,
No.
Commissioner. I talked to her a couple of days ago and proposed that she came with me. Then I was in Livingston the last 2 days and I didn't get a response
No.
from her, so you've got me.
all right. Well, I guess this topic, I think, came up because the sheriff's department or dispatcher, George, you said that there was some trouble in notification of,
Well, yeah, at our last LEPC meeting, we were discussing this, and I haven't really talked to our dispatcher yet, but this has happened before in that we didn't find out very promptly about derailments. We find out about it from the news media or somewhere else. I was notified the first time 5.5 hours after this last derailment by state DES. It's always kind of embarrassing when they call me and say, "What are you doing about this derailment?" I say, "Huh?" I did find out subsequently that our dispatch was notified 2 hours and 40 minutes after the derailment. I'll discuss with them why they didn't call me immediately. But even at 2 hours and 40 minutes, some of the folks at the LEPC thought that this was a little bit late notification. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I guess I'll let some of those who were concerned about it. Laurie is on the LEPC and very active there. Paul Manson from Alberton was there. And you and I have discussed this before about why I want to know what's happening in the county. Also, although they're not here this morning, one of the main complaints that I got was from Charlie Thompson, the soil conservation. I don't know what her title is, director or whatever here.
Secretary, I guess.
They are supposed to keep track of anything that's being done in the river for the 310 permits and so forth. They didn't find out about it until I started trying to call them. Of course, it took me a half day to get hold of them. But they make a lot of noise about wanting to be notified immediately. And I guess I'll let these folks speak for themselves from the LEPC and Martha from the state point of view. My only question for you would be, does your dispatch have a written set of protocols for who to call in the event of a derailment? If so, is our local dispatch on that list? And if so, in what order? Does it take 2 hours and 40 minutes, in other words, for them to make that phone call? That would be my only contribution to this thing. We've discussed it before. We can work with you. The county can sometimes help. We can't help pick up your trains or anything or get the rail open. But when citizens come to us and say, "What are you doing about this? There's stuff in the river," and I say, "What stuff?" That's kind of embarrassing to me, to the county, and it could, in the event of a hazmat spill, which has happened and probably will again, we can mobilize some things maybe while you guys are worrying about other things, and we can be of help, or we can make a lot of loud noises and go to the media and say MRL's doing us wrong and all this. So it's kind of up to MRL what they want to do there.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more. And as you mentioned, you and I have had this conversation before, and I've had it with Martha and a number of people across Montana. So to specifically answer your question and to the commissioners, yes, we do have a process, a written process as to what our dispatch center follows when there is an incident out on the rail. And that could be something from a derailment to a grade crossing collision to hitting a trespasser, whatever it is. But particularly in a derailment situation, there is a flow chart that who needs to be notified internally and externally. And at the top of the list on the external part is the state DES office. And then from there, in terms of notification, it's what type of derailment it is, what's affected, and that sort of thing. So, I mean, we can have a derailment like in the Missoula yard where maybe just some wheels come off the ground and the car is upright. Or we could have a derailment out on the main line like we had here, where we actually have cars off the railroad tracks, but they're not, we don't have a leak like on a tank car, we're not leaking. We may not have something in the river, or in the case of what we had just recently, and then again what we had was it last fall when we had all the 2x4s on the river. So we notify DES, and then we ask them to notify the counties. Okay, we have talked in length, and talk is really cheap, and so I want to put a price tag on it. We've talked in length at Montana Rail Link that this is just not acceptable, that counties need to know a lot faster than what the state DES is going to notify them. And then there are some regulatory requirements, like with the soil and conservation, as to time frame and that they need to be notified. So I don't have an excuse. I wish I had a handy excuse that I could say, this is exactly why you didn't get notified within the first, I don't know, I'm thinking 10 minutes or 15 minutes. When we have a derailment, of course, the engineers, there's only 2 people on the train, and they're on the very head end of the unit. And so what happens on a derailment is when the cars come apart, it causes all the brakes to lock up and the train comes to a stop, so they know that they have a problem. In this one, it was relatively simple in the fact that it was only like about 9 cars back is where the derailment started. And so they could see immediately what was there. It only took them a matter of a couple of minutes to figure out what was going on. Come back and report that to dispatch, and then the dispatch starts its center. And so I don't have an excuse as to why Mineral County couldn't have been notified maybe on the outside 20 minutes.
I'd say, I'd be happy with an hour.
Well, I would too.
And,
But let's just keep
Yeah.
working for the best. In other cases, say the derailment, is a lot further back in the train, and we have trains that are upwards of 7,000 feet, it's gonna take a little bit longer. And so what I can tell you is, and honest to gosh, I'm not making excuses, I'm really, really not. We have a new director of what is known as our training rules and safety department, and we have met with him, Jack Gabriel, who is our hazardous material specialist. And then actually I was meeting with the guy last night that's gonna take my job. He starts on Monday, July 28th. What we are starting to do, or what we are going to do, is, what we have never been real good at is a solid incident command system. When we have a derailment or an incident, we have the operating department, these are the people that drive the train, they go out there. We have the mechanical department, these are the people that fix the cars or tell us what caused it if it was an equipment failure. And then we have the operating guys also tell us if it was a human factor failure. And then we have the track people that are out there trying to determine if it was a track problem, some kind of an environmental or track problem, like heat or cold or something like that. And when all these entities get out there, they're doing their things, but we've never done a real good job of having an overall coordinator or an incident commander. And eventually it falls to the operating department to be the overall commander, but for those first couple of hours, or even as much as the first 12 hours, the individual departments are not coordinating themselves very well. And that's what we are starting, we have a meeting, and if you would like to come down to it, George or Martha, let's see, our first meeting is gonna be next Wednesday, I think it's Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Or I can email you the results of that first meeting, but the planning is that Montana Rail Link has got to put into place an effective and efficient incident command system to deal with situations like this where people are not being left out of the loop. And that's just simply what we did 2 weeks ago. We should have made a direct call to Mineral County, it should have been timely, and we did not.
Well, I understood that you had notified Mineral County before you did the state, because the state had, their incident report shows you notifying them at 9 p.m. Mineral County shows you notifying them at 6:41 PM.
Okay, and I didn't have any information on time. I was actually told by the chief dispatcher that he thought that we just notified the state. He didn't even mention to me that we called Mineral County directly.
Someone, Ronnie told me that someone had called
Okay.
it in to them. Next Wednesday at 8 AM, can you email me sort of an agenda or the time and date, where and what for? I would like to attend that.
Okay. Well, and
I don't know if I can help you any there or not, but I might.
this is our very first meeting.
Mhm.
And so I think I need to go back and say that I've invited
Mhm.
officials of the Mineral County and the state. It will be at the Montana Rail Link headquarters right on North Reserve Street. And I think as we start this crisis planning process, if we don't have representation such as George and yourself, Martha, to tell us some of the things that, from your perspective, that we need to have in place, we need to have that up front rather than trying to insert it down the road a little bit.
Yeah, and to form that, do you know if Linda's gonna be there?
Yes, she will.
She'll be one of the key players. The PIO is always one of the key players in any kind of team like that.
Yes, she will be. Mhm.
Yeah, I'd like to sit in on it and listen in, and if you have any questions or anything that I could possibly help with. Martha and I both have dealt with ICS for a long time.
I know you have, and, I don't have an excuse. I wish I did. I wish I could say, it's so busy, or we have to do this, or we have to do that. And absent a good incident command system, we're not gonna fix it. And that's what the
Okay.
railroad needs to get, and that's where we're going to go.
Maybe that's something that the state and local government could help with, help Rail Link with ICS and help you set up a response thing, because I think if you're sitting there having confusion in your own operation, that only trickles down to us.
Oh, sure, it sure does. I'm not so sure that I would say that we have confusion in our operation. We know what we're doing on the ground.
Well,
But
but
the
it's
confusion,
coordination, who's
absolutely.
in charge and why and all that.
Yep.
It's just I think that would go a long ways to try to.
Well, I do
gauge
too,
the,
and I think Martha and I were talking before the meeting started, particularly in light of everything that's going on right now with railroads and hazardous material and oil and coal. We just have to be very, very efficient. And
Well, one of the things that my concern is that, there was this train wreck over there in the, over there on the bank up there by Fish Creek, and there's the first thing that shows these 3 fuselages and these rafters going down the creek.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's
Yeah.
bad karma for any organization, and everybody thinks, well, what are they hiding? And I don't think it was a matter of hiding, and I realize that the track gets open or you guys don't make any money, I realize that, but I think that, and, we talked about, what about talking to, your office and possibly getting a map from you, not for everybody's edification, but where the fire chief would have it and where they could get on access roads to these. I know Frenchtown had some problems down there where the car drove down the right of way here, was it last year? And they were on the highway, and then there was the fence, and it was a goat, and then the road goes like this, and then it stops, the fire road. And, so we talked about that, and, I know that, when I was with US Customs with BM, it furnished us a map from, Sweetgrass to Shelby with all, access roads for the deal, or get on the spur line there. And, when I was in Washington, the state of Washington, Omnitrack, Kettle Falls International Railroad furnished us a map identical to that, well, it was an OBM track, that we would have access, where Customs would have access to the freight for the cars. And I think that to me would go a long ways, I think, to alleviate some of the fire chief. Well, if there's a bearing fire, a wheel fire, which getting up that time of year, and, where it'd make a lot of those people more comfortable and, not to,
gosh, we're so.
hanging out to hunters or anything like that, but it would just be a deal for the emergency responders, ambulances, anything that you'd have, or something like that. And I'm positive you guys have a mapping department or an engineering department
Well, we do, and we have what's known as a track profile, and we can certainly provide you with a copy of a track profile, but I don't think it's gonna give you the detail that you're looking for. On the eastern part of the state, it's pretty simple, but like taking the area where this was in Fish Creek, we're required under state law to have a fire guard road in there, and that's what it actually is, it's a fire guard, it's not necessarily an access road. And so it'll go along, and then there'll be a natural fire barrier, like an outcropping of rock or something, and then, you won't be able to continue to go. And there are places on the railroad, there just simply are places
And
that,
that's what we needed, something where you can drive down to here, if you have a derailment, if one of your engine crew are hit. Hey, I was involved with the, deal on that deal up there in Alberton, and you had two real sick engine crew people
Yeah.
that,
I'll inquire, but honestly, I don't think that we have a map that's of that detail. I mean, that would be we could probably put something together from an aerial perspective.
however you get the data involved into the map, but I think that would bode well for all along the right of way for rail link, and particularly in this area here, that's steep, mountainous, rivery on one side, and usually steeper neck on the other side.
So Pete, what you're saying is there's certain areas, that one in particular, that we just can't access by vehicle?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's lots of area. And the further west you go, the more area that you get that, but you can't get to it. We can get to it on a high rail vehicle.
Yeah.
And like, especially say you get over in the Lombard Canyon between Three Forks and Townsend, lots of areas in there too that are inaccessible by motor vehicle.
Well, that would be something nice for us to know, if we have an emergency where we're trying to get to those areas, whether we actually can or not.
Well, let me go back and talk to we have a property management division, and there are mapping people. And, they control and know who has right-of-way leases next to us, who are adjacent landowners, that sort of thing. So let me go back to them, and then we'll just task them too with the project of, give me an aerial pictorial of Montana Rail Link from point A to point B, like Mineral County, and identify the natural, identify landmarks so you can look at the map and say, okay, this is the Fish Creek Trestle. And then you can see where it is. Like, to get where we were the other day, we actually had to go through private property to get to the railroad property. But I think we could do it through Google Earth or whatever one of those programs are called. So I'll get that initiated.
Well, we have-
One suggestion for something that you could probably do fairly quickly that would answer most of the questions that Paul's bringing up is just take your map and those areas that you know are not accessible by motor vehicle,
Highlight
Highlight
those.
it.
Yeah.
that would help until they get around to actually getting
Sure.
all these impediments
Does-
defined.
Doesn't Rail Link have somebody that grades the fire line? I mean,
We contract that out.
right, so wouldn't that person or whatever know exact, okay, I can grade to here, and then, I mean,
Oh, I'm sure he does.
I would think that he would have some input on, okay, I can go this far, and then I've gotta stop and then go around here and start here. I mean,
The
that's
contracts will
actually
probably show
drivable,
that.
accessible, part of the road. So, I mean,
I think it'll be easiest, any one of the road masters could tell you where it's inaccessible, or where, for the most part, where the access parts are. But, the majority of the work that we do, of course, we get on with our vehicles that are equipped to travel down the roadway. And that's why I think it would be really beneficial to have a good aerial view. We'll mark out the places that are inaccessible and be able to provide that to you. I don't think that'll be a
yeah, I
difficult
think
thing to
that
do.
would, and provide it to the fire chiefs and
Sure.
emergency responders and.
I know years ago, when I was in Georgia's position in Sanders County, one of the things I requested from MRL was a map with highway mile markers and railroad mile markers, and how they interchanged with each other, and that was very helpful for our sheriff.
Our GIS has that on it now. Has the-
It
Yeah,
does.
and that's really helpful, but it sounds like it's just a matter of making sure everybody's talking to get the product
Mhm.
you need.
Well, I think Tim, if we could work Tim into the equation, is that he could put it, they have Arkham, I think, in ISRI or whatever the program is, ArcInfo, Arc something or other. But I think he could put that in there where it would be there, the data would be there. And I understand the security issue on the railroad, and it would be just for the planning people, it wouldn't be floating around.
Most of ours is accessible by any emergency responders. I don't know exactly what Tim requires, but it's on my computer, and I know some of the fire chiefs have it on theirs. The sheriff does. I think it's limited to responders at the moment, but I'm not sure. We pay quite a bit for each license for that, I think.
There used to be a program called, can't think of it now, but it kind of died. It was, and RailLink was a subscriber to the service, and it was similar to the ERG book, except I could type in your rail car number and it would tell me what was in the car.
We had that program. Of course, obviously, there's some real serious proprietary concerns.
I understand that. I have the first 3 licenses in Montana. I got it for customs, and it was written by some, whatever, I can't think who it was now, but it came from DC, and we used it. It had Amtrak, what would the inside of the car look like and all that. And you had to have, it had the security keys on it that you just, not just anybody could get software and download it. But it had, you know, like you could type in 123 BXA or whatever the car number was, and it would say that car is full of gasoline or something. And it was only people, emergency, the government, and we had it, and we understood the proprietary. You couldn't say, well, you know, there's gasoline in that car. But I thought it was a pretty good program, but I think the company went
Well,
because.
there is still a computer program that does.
Well, there
that.
is, I have it,
Oh,
I have the
yeah.
license and the keys.
But I don't know who it manages it. We're connected to it through the
Yep,
Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad.
they were on it, all the railroads are on it. It comes by section, in the section which you don't get every railroad, you just get the ones in your area.
The one thing that we are doing, and I don't know how that information is being disseminated, is that we are reporting on a regular basis, at least weekly. We report to the state CERC what our anticipated number of Bakken oil trains, fuel trains.
And I sent that stuff out to every
Yeah, we
emergency
have that,
manager in the district,
not
so they
sure.
have access to that.
I'm not sure how much good it does me.
I think that's good. RailLink was supportive of that, where BN was dragging their feet on it. I don't know why, I just.
But
Business.
that just gives us the amount per week or something like that.
Well, and it tries to, as I understand it, it tries to anticipate when the trains are gonna come.
Oh.
Generally, we can have as much as a 48-hour window, and of course, that 48-hour window is subject to instant change and no follow-through at all. But generally speaking, we're looking 24 to 48 hours ahead on where trains.
Possibly useful information, but I'm not gonna sit out there on your tracks and watch it go by just because I know it's going today. I mean,
Mhm.
the only time I'm gonna get involved is if something happens, and we hope it doesn't, but, you know, we do have our nightmares of something like that going in the road.
Yes.
Did you find out what happened to that? Any investigation results?
I have not heard of the results, George, and I think what they're still looking at, and, you know, you can't quote me on this because I don't know for sure, but I believe they're thinking that there was a malfunction with one of the dynamic braking electric motors on a trailing locomotive. That was the last I've heard.
Okay, Laurie, you had concerns and questions about that. Do you have anything else?
No, I think he's answered everything that I had questions about.
Our sheriff-elect have any further?
No, but I'd like to be kept in the loop with this kind of stuff, you know, so I'm aware of it. I know I'm January 1st out, so I don't wanna step on Ernie's feet at all. But I don't think it's anything that he would complain about, but I think it's definitely something, and I know Scott personally too, your replacement, so, you know.
Yeah, who is
we're
your
connected
replacement?
with him.
Oh,
I don't know if that's,
no, it's not Scott.
oh, it's not.
No, he's a really great guy.
I heard.
He
it was,
has to
sorry.
be.
I misspoke.
No, that's okay. So let me do this one thing. One of the things that you need to do is get a hold of me and let's put you on a train and run you through the route,
Love
both
that.
directions, so that you can see
Put eyes on it.
what's out there. And then when the maps come, you'll have a better feel for that. So just give me a call and we'll stick you on a train.
I'll grab your number before I leave, Pete, 'cause I don't
Okay.
think I have it yet.
So
When
the
you
guy
do that, I'd kinda like to go too.
Give me a call.
Yeah.
Well,
That'd
you're
be
better to go one at a time than
Mhm.
two at a time.
Okay.
The locomotive has
Limited seating.
3 positions in it and we have 2 people in it, so
Sure.
I think it's
I
just,
could be an engineer.
You could be on, just put him on top of a box.
they won't let you run, but they'll let you blow the horn, maybe. You're, by all means, you're all invited to
I think it'd be something worth
do that.
doing.
It's real eye-opening, particularly, you have such a beautiful country.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh
Pete,
my
is
gosh.
there anything wrong with bringing a camera
No,
to video it the whole length, just
no,
for future reference if we need it?
absolutely, bring it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing out there that, most of our locomotives, in fact, almost all of them are equipped with video cameras now, which has been real beneficial in lots of areas. Okay, so you're gonna call me for a ride, and we'll set that up. So the man that's gonna replace me, his name is Tony Bacino, Bacino, and he starts on Monday, July 28th. And you'll like his credentials. He started his working career, I'm thinking he's probably in his early 50s, 51 or 52, something along that line, so just a young pup. Started his working career as a police officer in a small Midwestern town. I think it was maybe Iowa or someplace like that. And so he did police work for 4 or 5 years. And then from there, he went to work for a railroad, and I don't remember the name of the railroad. I don't believe it was one of the class ones. And he was a railroad special agent for about 7 years. And then he left that railroad and he went to work in Pueblo, Colorado, which is the National Training Center for Hazardous Material technicians and trainers for railroads. Any of our hazmat techs, we send to Pueblo, Colorado. So he's been a trainer down there for a number of years. Then he started his own company as a hazardous material consultant to the railroads. And so he knows, he's been on our territory, that training train that comes through, that Transcare one that is coming through this fall. He has been on that and done training all the way across Montana Rail Link's territory. So I think you'll find him very informative and easy to work with and extraordinarily knowledgeable when it comes to hazardous materials.
Pete,
Is
that
Tony
train-
B as in boy or?
B as in boy, Bacino.
Pete, that training car that's coming through here, is that just traveling through?
No,
Or
no.
is it gonna be setting
It's
up
gonna
training,
stop.
cause I haven't.
It's gonna be setting up several training
Where is it gonna be
spots.
start at? I know we talked about having it down here in Superior one time and then that kind of.
I don't know that yet. Jack Gabriel is putting it together and I'll find out and let you know.
Okay,
But
and,
it's gonna, the whole west end is what it's gonna be
okay, and
focusing on.
now you're leaving,
I am.
and so the conversation that we just had about the mapping and all that stuff, so it doesn't fall through the cracks, how are we gonna continue on with that?
I don't leave until November.
Oh, okay.
So you're gonna work with Tony,
Yes.
and he starts until you done.
Okay, well, that's good.
And
One
when,
of you, if one of you could, say, come every quarter or every 6 months or something to an LEPC meeting.
I know. I absolutely agree.
when's this, meeting, you were talking about, you're gonna have a meeting in Missoula with, with Linda Frost and others?
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday, okay. You're gonna try to go to that, George?
I
'Cause
am.
to me, it seems like, I understand the busyness and the chaos of the incident command, but I'm hoping that maybe it can be, if the chief dispatcher is there, just something as simple as, I probably have to talk about the degree of derailment when we need to be notified, because obviously, County doesn't need to know everything MRL's doing for changing a
Yeah.
wheel or whatever, but
Don't even want to.
but some of the public crossings might be, like the sheriff's office might need to know if there's a public crossing that's gonna be shut down for 6 hours, so that people aren't going, hey, I can't get out to get my medicine or whatever.
That's who they'll call.
Yeah, 'cause they call you guys to say, Fred's got a doctor appointment, how long will this train be here? So, maybe we need to talk about if it's at a crossing or what degree of derailment, do we get notified? And And hopefully it can just be a chief dispatcher thing, you know, where you don't need to bother all the all the people out on the field, on the ground trying to figure out things. Just the chief dispatcher goes, okay, call Mineral County, it's at the Lozo crossing, it'll be down for 6 hours, and, you know,
Mhm.
something like that, that at least a notification is made when we need to know. Like I said, you guys have stuff going on all the time, and maybe there's something in a siding, we don't need to know about that if you guys are just stopped for a while with a bad break, but when it starts to affect the public's egress, then they call the sheriff's office, and,
I've done that.
yeah.
On
Yeah.
the Cedar Creek one.
Yeah.
Okay. now
Yeah,
which
so
one?
do you think we should have someone from the sheriff's office there?
It
Just
wasn't,
to-
I mean, it was the last
think they
car
would
of the
object to my
train was
recording
blocking
this
the
one?
whole thing and it was going that way.
I don't know
See,
that
that'd be a
answer.
nice thing
But I
for
think
them
this
to
is
do.
just the
Yeah.
initial
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah.
This is just a
Yeah.
discussion meeting.
Yeah.
That's why I think it'd be
So it
good
was like,
to have
I waited 15
you or
minutes. and I
Martha
called
or
the sheriff and
both,
said,
just
"Hey, you
so
might
that
wanna
we have
call
a
somebody
perspective
and
of
Then
All
we
they did was they
the
just,
impacts
Find out
on the
what
county.
we
apparently
need
they
to
didn't
bring
realize,
if
they
we
thought
did.
they were far enough and
Good.
they weren't.
They split the train
I
repair
agree.
all the time.
I got one more question.
Yes, sir.
How much of an increase have we seen in the rail traffic that's going through here? I mean, we see hundreds of loads of coal and, you know, oil, and seems like there's a lot more trains, and the follow-up to that is, are we maintaining the track to that degree? Is that a guarantee? I mean, I remember when Milwaukee went broke going through Mineral County, and there was a derailment a week.
Sure.
There was, I mean, it was a guarantee. They had speed limit through St. Regis down to 20 miles an hour. You know, I mean, you could walk out there and get on the train if you wanted to, if you dared. But, I mean, I'm not trying to put rail link in that light, but I would
I
certainly
appreciate it.
hope that there's plenty of maintenance going on
Yep.
with the increase in because, you know, mechanical, it's just like a truck going down the highway, you're gonna have a flat tire, there's nothing you can do about that, but, you know, keep new tires on, and I would, you know.
Our train traffic over, let's just take the last 4 years, has been the highest it's ever been. And I don't necessarily think we're on target to increase it a lot this year, but we're gonna be way up in there. You know, and it's measured in gross tons, how many million gross tons that we do, and like last year alone, I think we did over 170,000 coal cars, where there have been years our total amount of traffic maybe only amounted to 400,000 cars of everything. And we've entered into a very good contract with the BNSF on transporting coal, so that's gonna continue at the rate it is. You know, there's lots of speculation that we're gonna be doing 20 or 30 or 40 more trains a day, and that's just not gonna happen. I think the latest is that we're doing about 6 trains a day average, coal trains a day average, and that includes empties and loads. And Montana Rail Link's capacity is about 20 to 22, 23 trains a day is pretty much a capacity amount for us. On a short-term basis, we can do a little bit more than that. We kind of fell behind the curve on having enough qualified engineers, and that kept us, you know, closer to that 18 or 19 trains a day. And so we're pretty much up on our personnel issues now. In the last 2 years, we've hired over 200 new employees, and we're tracking to do that again this year. Maybe even not a full 200, but another 100. And those are mostly operating positions, switch officers and locomotive engineers and that sort of thing. So train traffic is, what you've seen the last year is about where we are. We're pretty much maxed out. And like I say, we can go a little bit higher, but just not a whole lot. In terms of maintenance, that is really kind of exciting. You know, we put millions of dollars into the infrastructure every year. We kick off our big gang maintenance system usually in March. We start, you know, with a couple of the smaller gangs, and then we open them up, and by the 1st of April, we have our big maintenance gang going. And what we've recognized with the volume, and they're heavy trains. They're not just trains, they're very, very heavy trains. We are probably in a position to where we're gonna now have 2 large maintenance gangs working full-time during the season. We have a big one, the main maintenance gang right now, and then we have a mini maintenance gang, then the specialty gangs that are out there too. And so we'll probably go to 2 full maintenance gangs. Like on an average year, I would say that the capital budget for track maintenance or infrastructure maintenance, track, bridge, and the signal communication system